Hey, welcome in. It's the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Patrick Allen, Matt Verderame back again to break down the Chiefs' final preseason game of 2022. KC comes out victorious over the Green Bay Packers. Not that that really matters, 17-10. We're going to break it all down, a few interesting storylines from this game. Before we get to that, Matt Verderame, how are you tonight? Football's back. I know football's back and the podcast is back in swing when it's like 10 o'clock at night and we're sitting here doing podcasts and I'm a little tired, but jacked up about Chiefs football.
I am glad the preseason's over, and I'm glad we're getting to real football, and I don't have to watch Crum play quarterback anymore, and I don't have to see the third string offensive line of any team. They won. They finished preseason 2-1 for those who care about records in the preseason. They had some good performances tonight. They had some poor performances tonight, but overall, I don't think anything too troubling as they now head for Arizona in a few weeks.
It's right around the corner. Of course, there are some unfortunate cuts for some guys. That's going to happen all across the league. We're going to get into all that. Before we do, I just want to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by the Kansas City Beer Company, our friends at KC Beer Co. on Twitter. Give them a shout. Only brewery in Kansas City that focuses on German styles. You guys have been awesome this preseason, by the way. Thank you to everybody who has been tagging KC Beer Co. on Twitter, sending us your pictures of you hanging out, watching Chiefs, having a KC beer, rocking an Arrowhead Addict podcast hat. Like, you guys are awesome. Check out the link in the description for our swag, all that stuff. But please help us out. Give out a shout to KC Beer. Let them know you heard about their beer on our podcast. Look for their red carton when you're out shopping in Kansas and Missouri, and dare to beer different. All right. Before we get into all the action of the game, we, of course, you and I, Matt, have not been on the podcast since the passing of the great Len Dawson. They had a great tribute to him tonight with the huddle that they did with Patrick Mahomes. Is the only thing that Patrick Mahomes was on the field for, and what a great reason to get him out there in a game where you didn't really want to see him actually take a snap. Just wanted to get some thoughts from you. I know you talked earlier on the channel about Len, but get some thoughts for the podcast audience from you about the great Len Dawson and about that tribute tonight.
So, look, he is the most influential and important figure in their history outside of Lamar Hunt. I don't think there's even an argument about that. Came to the team when they were the Dallas Texans in 1962, won an AFL title, won another one in 1966 in Kansas City for Super Bowl I. They, of course, lost to Green Bay. They win the last one, 1969. They go to the Super Bowl. They're 2-touchdown underdogs. They win. They crush Minnesota 23-7. He's the MVP of the game. I think, you could go on and on about his accolades, many of them, Pro Bowls, All Pros, Hall of Fame quarterback. But I think really when you talk about Len Dawson, a lot of people that knew him, that were around him, would tell you how good of a person he was, how philanthropic he was, how embedded in the community he was. I think that is the measure of any man, more so than what they did in their professional life. It was what they did away from the limelight. And so for Dawson, he leaves behind a tremendous legacy. I really feel like the Chiefs, and I know they've named the press box after him, or the radio booth after him. And they honored him, and they will continue to honor him this year with the 16 decal on the back of the helmet. I really think the Chiefs should put a statue out front of the stadium. They should do something that has permanence to it, because Dawson was permanent in Kansas City, and I would venture a guess will be for all time.
Boy, wouldn't it be cool to have a statue of that choir huddle, that famous shot of that, of a lot of great players in that photo, and of course Len leading them. Yeah, as a couple of younger guys, obviously we didn't get to watch Len play live and in person. We didn't get to be a part of that era of Chiefs football in the way that some of our listeners were able to. But just being a Chiefs fan, you knew about Len Dawson, whether it was from hearing him call games, him always being an ambassador of Kansas City Chiefs football around the team. You heard Clark Hunt talk about it tonight on the broadcast about how Len, he's from Ohio, like me, fellow son of Ohio, how he stayed in the community. And I think that's one of the reasons we love Patrick Mahomes so much. there's a lot of reasons to love Patrick Mahomes, but he's embedded himself in the Kansas City community. He's all in. And when they interviewed him tonight on the sideline and he talked about Len Dawson, you heard Patrick Mahomes talk about the history of the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't think that we should just all take it for granted that guys on the team know all about the history of the Chiefs and those types of things. It's a job, all that stuff. Patrick Mahomes knows his stuff. He knows his Chiefs football's history. He knows what Len Dawson means to this community. I thought it was really nice what Patrick had to say about Len tonight and just demonstrate what kind of guy he is as well.
I totally agree. I thought the same thing when he was talking. And, I think with him, not to make this about Mahomes because it's about Len Dawson, but I think he shows an attention to detail, even in stuff like that, that shows you why he's as great as he is at what he does. Like, he knew Len Dawson was a broadcaster. I mean, like, you could say, well, yeah, of course, but like Len Dawson wasn't calling games nationally. He's calling them in Kansas City. Well, Patrick Mahomes grew up in White House, Texas. He didn't grow up a Chiefs fan. Like, how many guys on the Chiefs right now, when they got drafted, thought they were going to go play games in Kansas? You know what I mean? Like, and that's not knocking those guys, but like most people, I've heard a ton of like players who have now played, who play for the Washington Commanders who thought they were going to the Pacific Northwest when they got drafted, right? Like they didn't know. So my point is to know that stuff off the top of your head, you have to be invested. You have to. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure it was on Twitter. I don't know if anybody noticed it. His headband when he was talking, it wasn't his headband. They had one specially made that said Dawson, Len Dawson, and it was a 16, not a 15. Like, that's just little stuff. Like, it's not, he wasn't playing. It wasn't for camera time. Like, it's just thoughtful. And by the way, it should be noted, Travis Kelce, who also didn't play a snap tonight, was also in that choir huddle on the first play. Like, it meant enough to him to be there. I think, and I want to get more into little details that I noticed tonight, but I think stuff like that, like, it does really matter. And especially when you're talking about the death of someone and the death of someone who's so important to so many people. I thought the Chiefs, both as an organization and the players, handled it with a lot of class.
Yeah, great job to everybody at the Chiefs. I know there are people behind the scenes that aren't going to get any credit for all of this. And, again, and it's not about anybody getting credit. It's about Len. But you see organizations mess stuff like this up all the time. And the Chiefs just did a great job. So hats off to everybody who was involved in that. Of course, our condolences to Len's family, everybody who knew Len, cared about Len, loved Len. It's never easy to lose someone. So our best to all of them. All right, let's talk a little bit about the game. I wanted to give a shout out to a few of you in the chat, to our guy Gonzo. Been a member for 5 months of the Arrowhead Addict podcast. We appreciate you so much, Gonzo. You're awesome. He says, rest in peace, Lenny, number 16, couple of heart emojis. And thank you to our guy, Ralph the Ace, for the super chat. He says, feels like cut down day every year will be extra tough in certain areas. Appreciate you both. Keep up the good work, guys. We appreciate you, Ralph. Thank you for the support. It's really awesome. We're going to get to the cut downs, but let's talk a little bit about the game first. Not a ton of playing time for the main players in this one, as is to be expected in the last preseason game. But some people got some run out there. Isaiah Pacheco was out there for quite a while. Jody Fortson, guys we know are going to probably make the team. What were some of the things that stood out to you, Verderame? I thought Pacheco had a nice outing out there on a few runs, really kind of showed what he can do, showed why the Chiefs like him so much.
I agree with Pacheco. I thought he looked like the best back in the team with some of the runs he made. I give Ronald Jones credit. Don't know if he's going to make the final cut, but he played well tonight. The first time he really got an extended run, played well. Shane Buechele, I thought, played pretty well. Didn't hurt himself. I thought he bounced back. I didn't think he played particularly well against Washington. He played well tonight. Obviously got a lot of action. It's going to be interesting if the Chiefs try to keep him, because for those who are unaware, to get on a practice squad, you've got to be able to pass essentially through the waiver wire, which is if any team claims him, they've got to keep him on the active roster. But you wonder with Buechele, like, could he make an active roster? He might. He very well might. You watch a lot of the action around the league. Let me tell you something. There are plenty of guys he's better than.
Let me ask you something. I tweeted about this. You have to pick a quarterback, and you've got one choice, and your choices are Jordan Love and Shane Buechele. Who are you going with?
It's funny. Like, it's close. it's really like it's legitimately close, and that is not saying a lot for Jordan Love.
Yeah.
I guess because of the pedigree, I'd go with Love, but like I couldn't argue with you if you were like, yeah, Bouchel. Jordan Love is not good. I don't think I'm breaking news with that, but he is not, they are very lucky that Aaron Rodgers stayed around. Look, I would say this though, of the guys who stood out that I think are going to be factors. Pacheco played well. I thought again, Saunders had the one run where the entire team got blown off the field and Green Bay ran in from I think 24 yards. Saunders got hooked on the play and got beat bad, but I thought mostly played well. Cook had a pick, looked good, was active tonight. I thought Jalen Watson had another really strong game, another really good game in coverage. On the flip side of it, Joshua Williams had a rough night. Like you just cannot take the penalties. I know the face mask was incidental. I understand that. Then you drop a pick, like that drive. He cost him twice. I mean, that drive should have been stopped. It ends up in 7 points. Then he runs into the kicker. Very easily could have been roughing the kicker. It was the right call. He didn't hit his plant leg, but he ran into him. Those are things that, like in the regular season, you're going out of your mind about. You cannot do that type of stuff. So I thought, Karlaftis in a small amount of action was good again. Their first team defense, the only concern I have is McDuffie and just what's going on with him with the concussion protocol. But other than that, their first team defense has been lights out. I know the Packers did not play many guys tonight. I get that. But overall, really, the only guy really was like, you got to be better, man, was Joshua Williams. So I thought it was okay in coverage, but just made some mistakes.
Yeah, he had a couple of things, but some of these felt a little bit like, hey, man, these some things that happen to a rookie. These are one of the reasons why Andy likes to play some of these guys in these games where people say, well, there's injury risk and it doesn't matter. And it's like, well, maybe would you rather have him do this in week one, make a mistake on special teams? Because if they want him to play, and I will say, like, on one hand, the special teams play, boneheaded play, you can't do that. On the other, great jump off the ball. I thought he was going to block it there for a second. Just needs to make a small adjustment. Maybe he does block it, but has to be more careful. So I like to see that. I don't like to see the mistake. Same thing with the interception. The dropped interception, got his head around,
right?
And made it was going to be a difficult pick. So I see. I guess if you want to call it a silver lining with him, you could see his athleticism on display.
You could. I thought physically it was fine. Like he held. It wasn't like he was getting torched. I just thought he made some big mistakes. Like those are mistakes you cannot make in a regular season game. And I know he's a rookie, but like, bro, I don't care if you're a rookie. You're playing. Like, can't make that mistake. I thought overall, like they ran the ball a lot better. They did a nice job. They had the old man's texting me as he points out. Special teams were really good. I think he's right on about that. They had some really nice returns throughout, and they covered great. One thing I will say about the Chiefs, you pretty much know every year they're going to be number one on special teams in coverage, especially that every year they're going to cover kicks, they're going to cover punts, they're going to do pretty well in the return game. They're going to kick their field goals. That kind of stuff gets lost because it's not offense and defense. How many games over the years have they won because they're so much better than another team on special teams, right? And their field position's 20 yards better throughout the course of the game. I thought, tonight was, as the old man points out, it was a good night for the special teams. They did a nice job. Sky Moore, Pacheco, Corey Coleman, to his credit, I don't think he's making the team, but he had a nice night on returns. So they look good in that regard.
We got a super chat from Jaden Aller. KC should keep 6 IMP on the 53 and is 12 getting cut.
Yeah, Gordon's getting cut. Yeah. Yes. Gordon's getting cut. I think really, look, I know we're going to get into the roster. The big question for me is, are they keeping 4 tight ends or 4 running backs? I mean, that's the question at this point. With Bell going and having surgery on the hip, surely going to start on IR for the year. Like, are you they're carrying Fortune, Gray, and Kelsey. Like that's happening. Okay. Know what the running backs are carrying: McKinnon, CEH, and Pacheco. Are they going to carry Gore, or are they going to carry a 4th tight end?
Well, Gore Gore's on IR, right?
I'm sorry, not Gore. Jones, Ronald Jones.
Yeah, Ronald Jones.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the question. What was your how did you feel about Bushman tonight? I know a couple splash plays. He did what he was supposed to do, but like guys,
Wide open.
he's wide. I could have ran that one into the end zone if I was that wide open. Not taking anything away from the guy. That he was a guy that he's apparently a guy that they like, and he got some run there today. Had I don't know, it was an injury there at the end of the game, but
Right.
maybe a practice squad candidate.
Maybe, didn't hurt himself. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You wonder if Jones, after all this, where we've all been like, he's not making the team. Well, now, like, Bushman got hurt at the end of the game. Bell is going to be on IR. Gore broke his thumb. You start looking at it and going, maybe Ronald Jones is going to make the team. Maybe he's going to be the fourth running back. Like, I don't know. I feel
he
like
ran hard.
He did. Oh, listen, he played well tonight. Say whatever you want about him, and I'll be the first one to throw my hand up and say, look, I'm not a huge fan of the acquisition. Wasn't at the time. Still I'm not. But he did run hard. He did play well tonight. You do wonder if he's on the team based on just some of the injuries that have happened throughout the course of the last couple of weeks. And then you start looking at, like I said, you look at that roster. I don't think there's have any questions. I really don't. Like, I think Boodle, to be quite honest, has been atrocious most of the preseason, but I think he's making the team. I mean, he's consistently been out there with the second unit. So I've got to think he's making it. I mean, does Lamons make it? Maybe. That's a question. Would they maybe keep him over Boodle? But I have like maybe 2 or 3 spots in my head that I'm like, yeah, it's kind of up for grabs. Other than that, I think it's pretty much it.
Yeah, Boodle was out there playing on special teams. Did get a sack, looked good on the sack, showed his athleticism a little bit. Made a play on special teams, but yeah, has struggled at times in coverage. What do you think about? Again, probably not. Turn. We talked about this like last wide receiver spot, and there are some guys that like they clearly like Darius Fountain. He's on a decent place in the depth chart. He's playing special teams. He always seems to make some plays in preseason. He didn't get a lot of action this preseason, but he made some plays tonight. Is he a guy that sneaks on there? Coleman is a returner. Is he a guy that sneaks on there and surprises us?
No.
Either these guys are gone.
We talking about Coleman and Fountain?
Coleman and Fountain, yeah, they both.
Fountain's going to make the team.
Oh, all right.
Fountain's making the team. I was convinced Darius Fountain was making the team the second that Dave Tobe said he was one of his 2 core special teamers. He's making the team. I think the receivers are pretty well set, man. I mean, I think you got your top 4 guys, and I think it's going to be Watson and it's going to be Fountain. Gordon's done nothing to make this team. Cornell Powell's done nothing to make this team. Corey Coleman, listen, I fair enough on the returns. He's done well. They have a million guys who can return kicks. I mean, they don't need him. They've got Hardman. They've got Moore. They've got Pacheco. He's not. What is he, their 4th returner? He's not making the team because of that. So I think it's going to be those 6. I think it's going to probably be Mahomes and Henny at quarterback. But I'll tell you what, like that is the one thing that's going to be really interesting. Like, I don't know what you're going to do with Buechele. Like, is he going to get past all 31 other teams? You're going to tell me some team out there, there's nobody. I mean, look, I've been watching Hard Knocks. Have you watched Hard Knocks?
I've not, no.
Okay, the Lions' backup quarterbacks are you and me. It is ridiculous how bad they are. Like, I'm not kidding. Shane Buechele looks like Aaron Rodgers compared to those 2 guys backing up Jared Goff. Like, you're the Lions. You're not taking that kid? Not going to take a chance on him? So I just wonder, I know part of that is too, like, look, he would have to learn the offense. I get that. It's a position where it's not as simple as this guy's better than that guy, because then he's got to go in there and learn everything and learn all the audibles and everything. I get it. But, if you're the Chiefs, you do have to wonder, like, would we get him to the practice squad? If not, do you carry 3 quarterbacks? Would you do that? I don't think they would. They haven't done that in the past. So I tend to think no, but they like Buechele. I mean, they clearly like him. When a team claimed him last year, they put him on the active roster. So they have interest in him. I'm curious to see what happens with Buechele here as we get to August 30th, which is cut down day.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about Buechele. First, I got to give a shout out to our guy, Corey Barnard. Listening for 2 years. You guys are great. Best Chiefs pod duo. There's a lot of great Chiefs pod duos out there. So that is high praise. Appreciate you, Corey. That's very generous of you. Appreciate you supporting the podcast. Helps keep us on the air. And I also want to say that we have some big surprises coming for you guys. You are going to get more Arrowhead Addict podcast content this season than you've ever gotten before. Our YouTube channel, it's already started. Verderame is going to be creating a lot more content. There's going to be, it sounds like, I don't want to let all the cats out of the bag, so we'll save some details, but at least one, maybe two more shows a week coming this season. We're really, really excited. So keep an eye out in the coming, in the next couple of weeks for some new content. I think maybe you'll be seeing a little bit more of Sterling Holmes. We're excited about that as well. So thank you all for your support. It makes it possible for us to keep ramping things up here as we have. 2 years ago, it was just an audio podcast. Last year, we debuted on YouTube. We're really pushing the envelope this year, so we're excited. Thank you. And if you want to support us even more, you can become a member. So check out the link in the description, and we'll see you in the private Discord channel. Listen, Matt, the Buechele thing. So, like, Chad Henne, does he get scooped up if the Chiefs just let him go and they want Buechele to be their backup quarterback? And I know Buechele's not been perfect, but like, it's kind of hard it's like the hardest thing to evaluate a backup quarterbacks in the preseason by preseason games.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like, it's a complete shit show out there, right? They're running guys that aren't going to make the team. There's no game plan. They're swapping guys in and out. There's no chance to get into a rhythm. They're not getting a lot of practice reps, but the Chiefs know a lot more about him than we do. Does it make sense at this point? Chad Henne's long in the tooth. He might still be available anyway if they find themselves in an emergency situation. That they've been developing Buechele. Time to turn the page. Make him your backup quarterback.
Look, man, I said a couple weeks ago, I would. Now, I don't know that they will. Like, Andy is one of those guys, and look, it serves him well, right? But he's these are my guys, and this is who I'm rolling with, and Spags is that way, and Tobe is that way. Like, they have a lot of faith in Chad Henne. I mean, you want to know how much faith they have? Go look at that playoff game against Cleveland a couple of years ago. The whole season's on the line, and they're like, you know what, Henne, how about a bootleg right? We're going to just wail it to him. I mean, yeah, they believe in him.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Like, I do feel like to some degree here, like, Henne's 36, 37 years old now. I mean, if you like Buechele, play him. And I know you're right. It's hard to evaluate it because on one hand, you're like, well, he looks okay. It looks promising. You're like, yeah, but look what he's playing with. Like, they're terrible around this. He can't block. Like, what would he look like with an actual offense? Like, I'm not naive. He's not going to look like Mahomes, but would he look like Tyrod Taylor? Would he look like, I don't know, Daniel Jones? Would he look
Daniel
like
Jones,
Baker?
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know what he would look like, but my feeling on it is this: if Mahomes, God forbid, ever goes down, they're screwed anyway. So I'd rather have the guy that has like upside, and you're like, who knows? Maybe he comes in there and he's terrible, and okay, well then he's terrible, or he goes in there and it's like, oh my God, like they're actually going to win some games with this kid. I mean, it's kind of funny. They've had Henne all these years. The one year they needed a backup quarterback the most, they won a Super Bowl. He actually had a broken leg. He was out.
Yep.
They needed to go get Matt Moore, being like a PE teacher. And it worked out. Matt Moore earned his ring that year. But I like Buechele. I do. I like his upside. I really do truly believe they should give him a shot as a backup.
And he's got some athleticism. I mean, he can scoot a little bit and make some things happen when plays break down, much like Chase Daniel, right? Like Chase Daniel could run a little bit, and made him sort of a little bit more of a useful backup because teams, they muck up the works. He'd pull it down. He'd run and convert a first down and maybe get you into field goal range. So let us know in the chat. Like, what do you guys think? Are you team Henne? Anything is possible, or are you team Bobby Buechele out there? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get some more of the back and forth going with the chat. We'll try to check back in on that. There's a little bit of a delay, that's how this thing works with the internet. So as we start to look ahead towards cuts, I think we pretty much know what we are going to expect. Are there any surprises that you foresee? Is there anything that you're like, I don't know, man, if there's just one out of left field cut coming that nobody would expect. Who do you think it might be?
Man, I don't think there's really going to be one. Not to be boring, but I just want to try to be honest and like accurate. I feel like you really know what you've got with this team. I don't think there's going to be. In fact, I think if it's any, it might be Henny. Like Henny might be the one that I'd be like, well, if there's anybody, maybe it's him. The only other one, maybe, and I don't even know if it's a player as much as it's out of the position, is D tackle. They're so deep there. Not that even it'd be a cut, but maybe a trade. Like maybe whether it'd be like a guy like Saunders or something where they say, hey, look, you know what? He's flashed like crazy, but we don't know if we can really get him time. So we're going to move him. I wouldn't bet on that, but that is the one position they are so deep at that you're like, okay, maybe they decide to go that route. But I think otherwise, I feel like I pretty much know their roster. I feel like, look, if I had the list of 53-man roster, I feel confident I'd at least name like 51 of the guys. I feel like most Chiefs fans could do the same thing.
Absolutely. All right, listen, let's go back to the chat and while we do some of these Team Hennies, Team Bouchels, let us know what your questions are. We've been talking. You guys have been listening to us all off season long. Talk about what we think. Yeah, we're very sorry, but you've been listening to us talk, and you've been listening to us break down these preseason games and talk about the roster cuts. I think it's time to give back a little bit. What questions do you have? What do you want to hear our opinions on? Let's get that going in the YouTube chat. Of course, hit that thumbs up button. Our guy Mike in Sweden says smash the thumbs up button. We love it. And there was somebody, I lost the comment that somebody out there was watching from Germany at 5 a.m. You're awesome. I'm sorry.
You're more dedicated than I am to this podcast.
Yeah, I can't find your chat anymore, but that's incredible. Let's see what you guys said in the chat. Our guy Reach Stacy was saying he's Team Henny. Give me a veteran who's helped the team win crucial games. I mean, look, that's a fair point. That matters in a big spot. Again, that's one of the reasons why Andy likes him. We know. Alan Hanley says Henny needs to exit left. Time to go. Interesting. Very interesting. Tone B says Team Henny. So I love that. Let's see. Andrew Maldonado says MVS is the best player on your team. Oh, interesting. Okay, on your team. So maybe not a Chiefs fan, Andrew. Somebody says, WS231 says, I'm Team Dustin Crum. I like that one. Here's a question.
Team of one.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, team of two. I mean, Dustin Crum.
I don't even think he's on that team.
He's not his mom. No. All right. So Jeremy Cochran says, Kennard cut. What do you think, Verderame? Kennard going to get the axe?
I don't think he gets cut. It's not a bad call, like it's a surprise, but I don't think so. By the way, it should be noted, Andy Reid's at the podium right now. Bushman broke his clavicle.
Oh, damn.
So he will be not coming on the 53-man roster. MVS did not play tonight. He is in the concussion protocol, and Trent McDuffie is still being evaluated for a potential concussion. Those are the injuries as we know them. But yeah, Bushman, tough break for a guy who had a very, very big night. Hate to see that, but he will be out obviously for a while. Other than that, it seems as though they escaped without anything. Of course, other than potentially McDuffie, not known yet whether or not he has concussion.
Let's hope not. And best recovery to Bushman and to MVS with the concussion. But you just feel for a guy. He comes out, he scores a couple of touchdowns, probably having the time of his life out there, and shitty thing like that happens. It's rough. We wish him a speedy recovery. We hope to see him back next preseason with either the Chiefs or somebody else. All right, let's dig in here to some of these comments from you guys. Let's see what we got here. David Esk says, keep Penny. The younger guys need a veteran to lead them if Mahomes goes down. God forbid. Yeah, I that's a fair point. Stacy says, question, am I the only one that thinks RB4 is infinitely more important than tight end 4, given the injury-prone players and a rookie in the running back room? What do you think, Verderame?
It's good. It's a good point. It's a good point. CH has had injuries. McKinnon's obviously had injuries, and Pacheco is that rookie that Stacy's talking about. Yeah, man. It's not a bad argument. I also don't know at this point now with the clavicle injury to Bushman, like who the hell's their fourth tight end? Who is it?
Yeah.
Like that's why at this point, man, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I would keep Ronald Jones because like I'm not the biggest Ronald Jones fan in the world. I just don't like when backs of fumbles just drive me insane. I'll be honest. It's nothing personal, obviously. It's just fumbling the ball drives me out of my mind. But who's more talented, Ronald Jones or their fourth tight end? I mean, it's not even close. It's Ronald Jones, right? Like, I think you're probably looking to keep at this point Jones unless they go out and add a tight end. Now, it should be noted, Kendall Blanton got cut by the Rams last week, part of their cut down, which was actually surprising. He's like a pretty athletic tight end, can block some. He went to the Titans, if memory serves, but the Chiefs put in a waiver claim on him. They tried to get him. So maybe the Chiefs say, you know what, we're going to add a guy. I mean, don't forget too, I always forget this. Guys get added after cut down day, right? Because everybody's cutting down. Everybody's cutting 30 players or so. So, you know, Brett Veach is probably going to sign one or two guys. I mean, that's just reality. You know, and you never know. One thing about the NFL, there will be a half dozen guys across the league that get cut that you're just like, what? Like, how did that guy get cut? Happens every year. So as things stand, yeah, Stacey, you make good points, dude. Like I could I right now, I think they will. I think they will keep 4 running backs because I don't know what the hell they would do at tight end. Who the hell are they going to keep? So I'm with you.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying in the chat, Jordan Franks, tight end 4. Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe they'll just go the Madden route and Michael Burton is your fourth tight end. He's your emergency
that's
tight
kind of what you seriously would do. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you can use Burton as a blocking back who's essentially blocks a tight end. Like, I think it's probably what you would do.
David Esk says, I bet we can get Tony Gonzalez back as a tight end on the cheap. He still wants that ring. Get Tony G back on the field. Let's go with another question here. Jeremy Cochran says, what is the longest field goal we'll see Butker attempt this year? They are talking up 70-plus yarders on the broadcast. Yeah, I don't think he's going to attempt a 70-plus yarder. But no. What is the longest he attempts, and what is the most ridiculous kick that he misses inexplicably?
An extra point that he absolutely will just blow 8 yards wide of the upright. As much as I think of Harrison Butker, I think he's probably the best kicker in football, not named Justin Tucker. He's always good for a couple extra points a year. You're like, what happened? You know what? It's interesting with him. He's kicking 74-yard field goals in warm-ups. Now, keep in mind, there's no line in front of him. He doesn't have to get it over a line with that. Okay, so it's different. Still pretty damn impressive, but it's different. Tobe has said recently that 60 would be what he feels confident with as a limit in a game. What is the longest many attempts, though, this year? It's hard because you're not normally going to attempt a 60-yard field goal, right? Like you probably punt because if you miss that, the other team gets the ball to 50. But I'll say like 58. You know, he's attempted that before he hit him. At the game against the Chargers a couple of years ago, he hit like 3 of them in a row. I'll say that, you know, end of the half or something. But I do think there's going to be a time in his career he's going to attempt like a 65-yard field goal. Not if he's going to hit it, but I absolutely think at some point in his career he will attempt some ridiculous field goal and have a pretty good chance of hitting it.
Some with those types of things, usually the fates have to line up, right? It's got to be the end of a half, or maybe it's the end of a game and you're down by 3 and there's no time left and the conditions are just right and the kickers and the special teams coach are flipping out on the sideline and the head coach is here. Let him try it. He can do it. It's going to be hard to see that happening. We had a good question here. Who y'all taking? From DES, who y'all taking, Stallworth, Shelton, or Saunders? I'll kick us off on this. For me, it's got to be Colin Saunders. This is a guy you invested the premium pick in. He's incredibly athletic. He's flashed a bunch this preseason. You're starting to see what the Chiefs saw in him. I think you got to give him another season. He's had injuries. Let him take the field and see what happens.
You know, I also think they're going to keep probably at least 2 of those guys. You know, I do. Look, they're going to keep Jones and Noddy. They're going to keep Wharton. I think Saunders is going to stay unless, like I said earlier, some team comes calling and offers you a trade. You just feel like, yeah, we have to do that. And then I think it's one of the other guys. I think, Stallworth and Shelton were both playing in the fourth quarter. They signed Stallworth to a 1-year deal. Shelton came in camp. My guess is they cut Danny Shelton. That's my guess. But they're deep at that position. They really are. But I'll tell you what, like, not to get off topic here. We can go through some questions, but I know he only played really, really early in the game. Karlaftis is just like the guy. There was one play where the Packers ran like a stretch play to the left-hand side, and he and Willie Gates destroyed the play. Like, absolutely just blew the play up. I don't think either one of them even tackled the back. I'd have to go back and watch it. I think somebody else cleaned it up. And then on the next series, Darius Harris looked like Lawrence Taylor for 3 straight plays. That was nice.
That was cool.
But yeah, in any event, I think Shelton is probably the odd man out. I think they'll keep the other guys.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of votes for Saunders in the chat. Alan Hanley says, I would take Shelton. Chiefs need to back up one technique to Noddy. Yeah, I mean, fair point. Goal line sets, those types of things. It's just hard. They have, as you've been saying, Matt, they have so much depth there. He came in late. He barely got in there.
And he's he's so one-dimensional. Like, he's not going to push the pocket. He's not a pass rusher. And like, I get it. It's not a bad point by Allen. Like, I totally understand it. But that's why you pay Derek Nottie. And also, like, Colin Saunders isn't exactly the size of a kicker in there. Like, you should be able to stuff the run a little bit. So I don't know. I wonder, one thing they did at the goal line that was interesting. They put in 4 defensive tackles at one point together. I wonder if they would do some of that in a game, like a regular season game, with all the talent they've got at D tackle. I mean, they have a lot of guys. Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes.
Another one from Jeremy Cochran. Another quick question. How long do you think the leash is on CEH this year? His ball security continues to worry me, and EB's comments about him didn't exactly induce confidence. Yeah, man, not super long. I mean, they've got guys. So, I could see it very much being a hot hand situation. He may be the starter, but if he goes out there and he does something they don't like, I don't think they're going to be too anxious to get him back out. They're going to put Pacheco out there. They're going to put Jerick McKinnon out there and see what they can do that game.
I'm to the point with him. Like, I don't give a rat's ass who's a first round pick. I don't care. Play the best guy. And I got to tell you something. And I get it. It was a little sample size, and you got to be careful with that stuff because in the preseason that can happen. Darwin Thompson a couple of years ago looked like he was going to be Walter Payton. Okay,
right.
Things change.
Yeah.
Pacheco has a burst though that CH just does not have. It just doesn't. Now that's not to say he's going to end up being a better running back. May not be, but you can see why they like him. You can see also Pacheco in camp catches every ball thrown at him. I think it's just going to be rotational. I do. I think McKinnon's going to be a third down back. I think those other guys are going to rotate in. If they keep Jones, he'll probably get some goal line carries. He's the bigger back. I just think it's going to be – I think their offense – and I've said this. I said it on the last podcast. I'm going to say it again. In past years, their offense is played out like a movie, okay, where they've got 2 or 3 big headliners that you throw on the marquee, and everybody else just kind of fades in the background and blends in. This team is more like an ensemble cast. There's a lot of guys. I mean, that is what is different about them, but it's also really exciting about them because you're just going to have games, I think, at running back and receiver for that matter, where some guys just rolling that day and they're just riding them for all he's. And then you know what? Maybe another day that guy's doing nothing, but another guy steps up. I mean, the one thing with the Chiefs with this group, they can basically play you any way you want to play. You want to play with big, tall receivers and a big bruising back? Fine. You want to play the speed game? Fine. You want to play where we're going to have pass catching backs? We're going to get out and say, fine. I mean, that is the one thing about them. I don't know other than Kelsey and their pass catchers or their backs have anybody who'd be like, that guy's a star player, certainly not a superstar. But they've got a lot of guys that can match up with you and do a lot of different things. And that in some ways is harder because as great as Tyreek Hill is and was, and certainly I think most Chiefs fans tell you he'd be great to have in the team. Like, if you double him, there are ways to stop him. There are ways to mitigate that. And we saw that the first half of last year where they really struggled. If this team stays healthy, I don't know how you stop everybody all the time. especially with that offensive line. I just don't know what you do. And at some point, somebody's beating you. We're going to see it in 2.5 weeks in Arizona.
Chris Albright says, is Deion Bush, Mr. Hitstick, making this team? Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt.
Yeah, he's making the team because you got 4 safeties. He and Cook are going to be the backups.
Yeah, he's a lock, and he's I'm telling, like, I think he's a huge upgrade over their safety depth from before, from last year.
Well, he doesn't run like he has 2 broken legs, so yeah.
Yes, right. He flashes out there. You could see why the Chiefs liked him again. And you just said it, Verderame, more of an ensemble cast, more guys that can do things for you, and you just see it. It says, oh, then it's this guy, then it's this guy. A lot of these guys, athletes, big hitters, playmakers. The Chiefs have them all over the place, and I mean, even saw it on Willie Gay. Like, Willie Gay had a missed tackle tonight, but he like right over on the sideline to screen pass or something, and he flew over there though, and he's not going to miss that tackle every time. But his ability to get over to the sideline so quickly, the Chiefs haven't had that consistently since really Derek Johnson left.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned him because I teased at the beginning of the show that I wanted to say something about the details that I was watching and kind of noticed and wanted to take stock of real quick. Willie Gay, and not just tonight, this is every game, is the most enthusiastic teammate you will ever find in a preseason game. The man is just a one-man hype machine on the sidelines. He's going and going and going. But I noticed something watching that game, and I've noticed this throughout the preseason. Now, you watch a lot of preseason games. Unfortunately, I do. Okay, there are plenty of times guys are sitting down the bench laughing, talking, whatever. And I get it, right? Like, you're a starter. You don't care. The Chiefs, they are all standing there. They're all engaged. They're all watching. They're all rooting for their teammates. Like that, like even Trent Green made the point when Crum was in a quarterback. The other 3 quarterbacks all had their headsets on. Yep. Like they're all involved in the game. Willie Gay's involved. Travis Kelce's constantly involved. Chris Jones is involved. Mahomes, like when your best players are that invested in the guy's success, who, let's face it, most of them are not even making the roster. That is a culture that stuff matters. Like, I know there are people who are like, oh, that's corny. It's like, no, that stuff matters. Like when you have guys who are that invested, who care that much, it carries over. Like it really does. Like because you play for the guy next to you. There's no selfishness. That is one thing with this team that I do think really does matter. And listen, I think the reason with this team I am most optimistic, other than they have Patrick Mahomes, they're not as star-laden as they've been in years past. They're not. There's no argument for that. This is, I think, the deepest team they've had. They are just so good all over the field. Their second team's good in a lot of spots. I mean, not everywhere. Their offensive line's not great, second team, but like they have second team guys, a lot of them that would start on decent teams in the NFL. And that's why, and I know we're going to preview the season as we get to it, but that's why I think they're winning this division. It's not because of their best 10 guys on the team. Because I'll tell you right now, I think the Chargers, if you lined up everybody's best 10 guys in the AFC West, I think the Chargers' best 10 are better than Kansas City's top 10. I don't think it's by a huge margin, but I think they have a better top 10. But when you look at the rest of the roster, Kansas City is a much deeper football team. And the one thing we all never talk about in August is injuries, but we talk about them a lot in September and October and November and December. And it matters how deep you are. It matters what the drop-off is. And Kansas City just has so much depth with this team that I really believe that's going to be the difference. I don't think the other teams in the division have anywhere near the depth. And that, by the way, is a product of drafting really well for years, finding good signings, finding good UDFAs. Okay. That's how, you build the team year after year after year, where when you get to this point, you're like, man, they're going to be cutting guys that are not only going to get scooped up elsewhere, but like in some cases, guys that will play elsewhere, like guys that will be rotational players elsewhere. I think it's a really, really positive sign for the Chiefs, both their culture and how deep they are on this roster.
It's very exciting. Definitely, as Stacy was putting it in the chat, one of the most talented and athletic teams they've had. DES asked, what's the ceiling for this defense? I think they can be a top 10 defense. I really do, if it comes together well. What do you think, Verderame?
It's a good question. All right, I'll put it this way. I think they can be top half of the league for sure. I think they can be a top. I'll say top third of the league. So I think top 12. I think that's my hesitation is just they have a lot of new young guys, a lot of young guys, and so I just wonder early, is that a big detriment to them against guys like Herbert and Brady and Allen, where it's just they haven't seen players of that magnitude. On the flip side, I think it could be the best thing that happens to this team by the second half of the year, where I think it could be similar to that Super Bowl season where early in the year they're not good defensively. A lot of new moving parts. Then the year's going on, and it just by the second half of the year, especially the last third of that year, you're like, man, they're not giving up points. Like, they are just killing people. The one thing I think could change that for me and make them maybe a top 10 defense, if Karlaftis is as good as he looks like he's becoming, and you have Gay and Bolton in there, and you have Jones, like that could be a game changer. Where they're just so good in the front seven that these secondary guys, young as they may be, bro, you got to cover for 2 seconds because it's just coming. You know, you got to cover for 2.5 seconds. Like, they're really athletic and they're physical and they're fun. They're fun to watch. I do wonder, based off the schedule, they play so many great quarterbacks this year. Like, does that just drag their ranking down a little bit, or does it come playoff time really help them? Because they're just used to it. They've seen these guys all year long, and they haven't faced a powder puff of a schedule.
They just need to be good enough early on, just good enough. You got Mahomes and Kelsey and those boys on the other side, and then by the end of the year, if they're playing their best football, and I agree, if Karlaftis is as good as he looks, if Chris Jones is Chris Jones, and if we get the best version of Frank Clark on that defensive line,
that would be huge.
Oh, and by the way, they're going to rotate in Carlos Dunlap. Okay.
Right.
All right. I could see that being top 10, top 12 by the end of the season if the rookies come along. So it's very exciting. Listen, everybody, we're going to have to get going here. It's getting late, and we want to leave you wanting more. So here's the schedule. Tuesday, big day, cut down day. Just also happens to be the day that we do the Arrowhead Addict podcast, one of the days. So Sterling and Matt Connor will be there. I'm sure Verderame might be around as well for cuts. I will not be. I will be out next week. I'm taking my vacation, my before the season vacation.
Selfish.
So I'm hoping that by the way, Verderame, you got to find a co-host for Thursday.
Whatever. You're looking. I'll bring my dad on. We'll party.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, then the show should improve with the two of you. I'm hoping that I don't get cut while I don't want to get back to my house and find that red tag in my locker or whatever it is that they do. Right. The Turk comes for me. If you need to send the Turk, send him to Ohio. I'll be in Ohio. I won't tell you where though. Listen, guys, again, announcements to come. I'm talking a new newsletter for members. I'm talking fresh content on Arrowhead Addict, the website, a really special old school person that we may be bringing back, another show to add on to the other show, to talk some sports betting, just a lot of exciting stuff coming your way this season on the Arrowhead Addict podcast, which means if you're watching this for the first time, or even if you're not, but you haven't hit the thumbs up button in the chat there, hit the thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Get these Chiefs content all season long. It's a blast. We have a hell of a lot of fun, particularly on the post-game shows. This one, fine. But when there's actual games happening and the stakes are high, it's intense. That's all I can say. I mean, if
and this year we're going to be I'm going to be jumping on every halftime. Every halftime for Chiefs games, I will be on. I don't know, assuming you'll be on for a lot of them. We'll have people on. I'll be here for every single halftime, breaking down the game and either being happy or yelling at them or some combination, probably a combination. So it'll be good. It'll be a lot of fun. It's crazy to think, like, we are now 2.5 weeks away from the Chiefs down to Glendale, hopefully for the first of 2 times this season, playing the Cardinals, trying to get off on the right foot.
It's going to be a long 2 weeks. We'll have roster cuts to keep us engaged, and then after that, it'll be, draft your fantasy football leagues and let's get going. Which, by the way, if you had been a member of the Arrowhead Addict podcast, you would have had an opportunity to join one of our 2 fantasy football leagues that I'm in, Verderame is in, Sterling, Matt Connor, Arrowhead Addict founders, Adam and Zach Best. Really looking forward to those drafts, which will be kicking off late next week before the season starts. All right, everybody, we got to get out of here. Thank you so much for your support. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out. The guys will be back on Tuesday and Thursday. I will see you in a week and a half. And till then, go Chiefs.